This is Jeff Jennings with BOM Modular. In this video, we're going to go over the process of creating a lookup table for mechanical duct fittings. This process can be applied really to any of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system families in Revit. So part of this process here is we'll be using the accessible families. In this case here, the duct fittings, and we'll in particular grab this one here, which is a round rectangular elbow radius fitting, and we're going to add a lookup table to it and be able to generate bill of material data into shared parameters, so that when we make Revit schedules, the schedules are all able to have all data consolidated into a common set of shared parameters to minimize schedule management and allow us to export bill of materials more accurately for purchase and plant operations, job site operations, and such. So let me first go ahead and address a couple items for the mechanical duct fitting, and then we'll go into creating a lookup table. And I'll be using Family Type Manager in the process for creating all the combinations, and then the lookup table with rules of naming, then using creating the family type formulas as well too in the this mechanical duct fitting. So as you can see, the family itself right here has a total of 3 types. There is a 1W, a 1.5W, and a 2W. That's basically a multiplier for the width. So if the width is 10 inches times 1, it's still a 10-inch radius. 8 times 2 is a 20-inch radius. And times 1.5 is a 15-inch radius. So if I go to a 2, you'll see this ductwork will extend. And if I go to a 1, you'll see that it will be reduced. So if you look also in here, this family, here's your radius here. That's a multiplier. So again, you'll see 1.5 and 2. Really nothing else of values in here. These are also all the default Revit parameters that come now with the out-of-the-box families. Also, these parameters are all type-based. The challenge is with mechanical duct fittings, plumbing fittings, a lot of electrical fittings, is that they require instance parameters. They have connectors. The connectors connect to an element here and over here, and that determines the size of the end product. So those are all instance driven. So you cannot use type information for this instance data. So you can't type in, this is a ductwork, which is a 8x8, because if you type this was an 8x8 elbow, it's going to, let me show you real quick here. So let's say it was just like this, was a description. However, let me go and press save for this 2i. Now, if I were to change this element over, right now you see it is an 8x8 here. But let's just take this one here and here. So this one right here was, so it's an 8x10. Let's do the same thing right here then as well. We'll just make this one also a 10x8, 10x8. And I'll change this one here to make it also 10x8. So here's our connection. But if I go back to that family, it's hard coded. So even though it's 10x8, it's still showing this 8x8. So you cannot use these type-based parameters for instance-driven elements. So what can we do? And that's where we're going to go through the process of the lookup table. So if I were to go ahead and now create a lookup table here, I got values in place here, but what we'll do is go to Edit Family. Here is the family. If I go to look at my properties, and you'll see here's the family itself. We have our duct width, our radius multiplier, our height, and angles. And if I go to Manage Lookup Tables, there are none. You'll find the lookup tables, a lot of the plumbing components, some of the electrical components, but there's majority of all of the, if not all of the ductwork components. There are no lookup tables. However, you can create them, and that's what we're going to go through this process to do. So to start, let's go ahead and just create a couple parameters here to get this thing prepared. So I'm going to go ahead and do is let's do a first parameter here, and we're going to call this lookup table. We'll make it a type and condition. It's going to be text. I like to throw all my stuff here under data and click OK. Now here's a lookup table parameter. I'm also going to throw in 3 shared parameters in this example. You can do as many as you need. So we're going to go to shared parameter, and I'm going to pick for BOM data. We're just going to grab default here. Let's do description. Make that under also data. Instance driven. Let's grab some dimensions. Instance. And let's go ahead and grab also a tag ID information. There we go. I'm going to also do is name this lookup table to match the family name. So in this case here, we can do it this location quote and rectangular elbow radius. And now we have a lookup table we're going to reference, and we'll build these equations out after we load the lookup table in place. So let's go and press apply. And then we can go ahead and save this family. Families. This is Imperial. Let's go to and we'll just save it right there. All right, so we have a family saved, and now we're going to go through the process of building a lookup table in place. So I've got this program here called Family Type Manager, and we're going to create all of our different combinations. So, and this is a typical lookup table. We'll create a custom one, just modify this one with the new data. So here we are. I'm going to first of all set up here is my radius, and we have our width conditions and we have our height conditions. So if I go back into Revit, we can see, if I go here to project file, if I select this fitting, we have all these sizes for this Imperial project in inches. So I'm just going to go say we're going to grab from 3 to 14. That's being our typical use cases. Again, same here for our height is 3 to 14. And of course we have our radiuses, which is 1, 1.5, and 2. So we can now come back in here into Family Type Manager. I'm going to use as a type builder to make these points. So we'll have 1, 1.5, and 2. And then our widths are going to be 3 through 14. Hold down Control key, copy that, and paste that values. And now we've got all of our radius, our widths, and our heights for that particular duct fitting. So I can now go and press New Configuration, yes. And what it's going to do is go through there and create every single possible combination that we can now use for a lookup table. That's done. We have a total of 432 unique combinations based upon the radius, the width, and the height of that particular ductwork. You'll see all those right here on the left-hand side. So what we can now do is select all, transform. That's all added. And I can go back and say here on my name, I'm going to go ahead and call this is let's go ahead and set this up here for elbow rect. And I'm creating just basically a type name in place here, space. So you start seeing this name being generated right here. I want to have a W space, actually W underscore, and we'll set up right here as well for that condition. So now we've also have named every single possible combination we have for our fittings. So at this point here, I can go back and do a copy to clipboard. I'm going to select from here, just do Control A to select all the data and click OK. Pick my lookup table. I'll throw it right here and click OK. That's done. So we now have all 432 different combinations added to this lookup table. So in this case here, I do want to change this information over here to being radius. And this is going to be, actually this is going to be a generic number, a number general. So let's do number general. This is going to be our width, and this is our height. And I'm going to set up some additional parameters that we want to report to. This is the benefit of the lookup table. So I'll set up this one here for being, let's do description, hashtag other. That means other is going to be used for a text value. Let's also set up here is our tag, or else what I'll do is do part ID. So you don't have to have the name in the lookup table does not have to match the name of the parameter in the Revit family. And I'll show you that. That's why I'm doing some slightly different here. And then we'll also set up here dims. So now what we're going to be able to do is we're going to look up the values of the bend radius and the width and the height of the duct to go ahead and generate out what is going to be our reported information back for the description we're using, the part ID or tag ID we're going to be using, and our dimensions for that product. So to do such, I'm going to now check out my scratch pad here where I've set some notes. So basically this is what we're generating now is all of this information and this formatting. And we can do this all in Excel very quickly. So let's go and first of all create our concatenated string for our description. We'll do the same thing for our part ID and our dimensions. So we'll come back in here and we'll set this up here. Go to the equal tab, concat, do quote. That's copy, so mechanical, rectangle, or elbow. Select, close that off, and we'll come back to a comma. Now I want to have is this value first, my radius, comma, then quote, then W, underscore, and we'll do the next one here, which is going to be this value for the width. And I want to make sure also to have a, just for like presentation wise, we're going to set up the quotes in there, actually 4 of them. So right there, and then we're going to do the next parameter, which is going to be the height. Let's go and do the same thing here, is set up the comma, quote, 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 lowercase x, and then a quote. So you start, if I close this off now, you'll see we're now starting to create the whole data here for the string. I can go back, and if I start dragging this down here, you're starting to see more information populating for the Excel table. So I want to go ahead and make this also report the remaining balance of this connector to kind of match what we had in the Revit family, where we have the calling out the size for both ends of that elbow. So we can now just go back in here and that a hyphen. That's what we want right here. All right, so now what we're going to do is grab this again from here, and we'll go ahead and just paste it. So now I've created a slightly modified value here to report. And I'm going to go back to add, comma, quote, quote, 4 of those. And now we've got the information here showing for, again, this is for imperial, but we can do the same thing for metric. I'll go back in here and drag this down. And here's all your data. And we can also come back here with autofill to select this, double click it, and we now have created every single description of every single possible fitting we need. Here's your 1.5s all the way down to your 2Ws. Now the next step here we have is to add our information for our part ID. So I'm just going to grab this one here in particular and do a very, very similar step as well. So we'll go to our lookup table, part ID, I'm going to do equals concat. We're going to now, so that's a basically mechanical division of the elbow rectangle. Set up here now, we have this as being this product, comma, I want to show a W value, comma, actually let's do a W period. And then we can do the two sizes here as well. So we'll set up here for this value, comma, I believe that's what I was going with here for that information. If I go back to look at my scratch pad, that's correct. So I can now come across here, select this one, and we've now gave a unique type ID mark to every single possible Revit family. Next one here are the dimensions. So dimensions are easy. We're going to come back across here again, do the same thing, and just do like this. I'm going to just grab part of the previous one and paste it in here. So we'll just grab this one, go all the way back here to right up here to this mark. Or better, I'll just grab the whole thing, come right here to dims, and I'm going to delete out this prefix. And now I've got my dimensions here shown. So we now have created a lookup table that references all 432 unique possible conditions we have, and we'll have everything properly be reported and all in a common shared parameter for all of your mechanical conditions, all of your same applies for mechanical or plumbing. So we have unified column collections across the entire model with these shared parameters. So let's go here and now do export data. So let's do a new lookup table. And here we are, we're going to create this one being the name I've given, which was for Revit itself. This is our fitting family we're going to be working in. So that's a rectangular elbow radius. So rectangular elbow radius. And let me go ahead and actually place this in the path. Be under my imperial mechanical fittings. And we've now basically assigned this lookup table into the same family, same location as the family itself. So it's easier to manage and know when we look at the folder structure. You see right here, you'll see now we have this is the family, and that's where this lookup table is also going to be written as well too. So at this point here, we now are ready to generate. So we'll go and create the new lookup table. And the lookup table is generated. If I go here to open, you'll now see we have a lookup table right here with the family. So now we're in the process of populating the data. So the fun part. So I'll come back in here to my type catalog, manage lookup tables. I'm going to import that lookup table. So here we are. That's it. Here's one we just created. Click open, and now ready to load it. Now at this point here, we're going to start creating the standard rule for lookup table formulas. So it's going to be a size underscore lookup. What is the name of the lookup table we're using? We're just going to reference this parameter called lookup table. What I want to look for, I want to look for the description. If I bring this over here, what we're doing, right here, the editor, I'm going to be looking at the information for this column based upon other data. So we're looking at this column, so it's be description capital. So this is grab. It is case sensitive. And if I don't have anything found, I'm just going to go ahead and just throw in a NA. And now I got to look at what data I want to look up for. So I know I need to look in, this is important, is left to right. It's like it's basically a VLOOKUP. So Revit's going to start off with the first column, or sorry, in this case, the lookup table, the second column here. So it's going to look for radius, followed by the width, followed by the height. You cannot skip. You can have as many of these as you want to go across to look at, but they must be in order going left to right. You cannot intermingle, you cannot skip columns. It must be in order left to right. Otherwise, you'll have a failure when it reads data. So we're going to do the radius, width, and height. Radius, width, and height. So we're going to come right here. And so the first part here is our radius. So we have to look at this value, radius multiplier. Now we're going to look up is our width. So this will be our duct width value. And then we have to also use our duct height value. And that's it. Go ahead and close parentheses. And look, we now have our data shown. I can now go and grab this, paste it, and paste it. In this case here, I want to now pull up not description, but I'm now going to be looking at the column name for part so DEMS in this case here. So let's just grab DEMS, capital. There's DEMS, press enter. Now all of our dimensions. And our last one here is part ID. So it's going to be our part code that we can use for tagging elements. So we'll call this part underscore ID. And now we have a part ID information. That means now if I go ahead and change this to, let's say, a 1W, this information is going to change. A 1.5 is going to change. If I change this to an 8-inch, here's the new 8-inch data. If I change this to a 3-inch. So you're getting all your information in real time for the product. So if I apply this data, you now see a smaller element for design. And let's just go back to where we were. So we have a working tool. And keep it 1.5. Here's our information. Done. And we can now save this family. Now I'm going to load this family back into Revit. Overwrite the existing version, its parameter values. So now let's go ahead and click on this family. And you'll now see we've got these parameters shown. And it's a 2W, 10 by 8, 10 by 8 right here. So we're able to get the information. If I go ahead and change this to a smaller size, you'll see it's now changed to 8 by 8. Change this here again, maybe to a 12. You now have all information properly reported. So now we can go back in there and tag the elements with the shared parameter for tag ID. We can also go and schedule this information. So I go back into a schedule. And let's do a new schedule here. And I'll set this up here for, you can do a multi-category schedule. If I'm going to set this up here even for duct fittings, come down here, duct fittings. I can now go ahead and pick my BOM information. And if I want to grab also the elements, I can do my type. I'll do size. You can see what's going on here with that. And we have our schedule showing. So here is all information for our description, our part dimensions, and our ID information. So all the other fittings can also assign this. And again, nice thing is that every single parameter in your entire project can obviously see the same BOM parameters. So for instance, your description data, your part dimensions, and your tag IDs, height, width, depth, manufacturing data, any other information you want that's relevant to your business. Those parameters can be assigned to everything within a Revit project, and you now only have to deal with just a few columns of data for everything to easily be seen. So let me show you one more here for the multi-category as well. So just do multi-category schedule. Here's the same shared parameters. Assign that. And here's information showing. And what it did do was read, you notice we have two different sizes here because this parameter is right here of the 8 by 12, and this one is the 10 by 8. And that is what we have right here. So I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much.